We're muted because I suck at my job.
Good evening and welcome to the Castle of Spirits True Ghost Stories podcast. It's a good thing I screwed up the beginning the first time, and we get to do it again.
Yeah.
I am your Ghostkeeper Vince.
And I'm your Ghostkeeper Jane.
And as a result, we are the Ghostkeepers of this castle.
Yeah.
If this is your first time here, do not fear. It gets better.
Well, I don't know that it does. We've been doing this now for what? 3 years?
I believe 3 years, yeah.
And I still don't know how to unmute the microphone.
Well, you know.
Whatever.
I hear that it takes 20,000 hours of doing something in order to become a professional.
Oh, uh-oh.
And so if we're
Seeing
doing
that our episodes are an hour or less.
So episode 20,000, we should have it all ironed out. But the one thing we do
Sorry.
well, I hope, is we share ghost stories, true ghost stories, none of that made up stuff.
That's right.
Taken from listeners and viewers just like yourself. Viewers, if you're listening to this in podcast land, we are broadcasting this live every Saturday night on YouTube.
And speaking of the live stream, we actually have several people in chat with us tonight. Hello, everybody in chat. If you have little stories to share with us, please do so toward the end of the show. Maybe we will read some of them.
Excellent.
Ooh. And if you're just listening in podcast, I don't mean to diminish it like that, but if you're listening in podcast land, we would really love it if you'd just pop on by YouTube one random Saturday night and
let me tell you something.
Hi.
We have a lot more podcast listeners than we do have YouTube viewers.
It's
true. Likely because I have a face for radio.
No. Ghostkeeper Vince is dead sexy. See what I did there? Dead.
And speaking of
dead sexy.
Dead.
Okay.
We do have a theme tonight, don't we?
We do. Can I say it?
Do.
Parties. So this episode is called Dead Can't Dance.
So we've decided that they cannot dance.
Right.
Because I said, before we came here tonight, I said we're going to determine throughout the course of the entire episode, we're going to let people know whether or not the dead can or cannot dance.
I mean, Resurrection Mary could dance. Does that count?
It actually does, because Resurrection Mary, we're not telling stories about her tonight, but we can talk about her for sure.
Yeah, she did dance.
She was a creature.
A creature?
I don't know, a ghost.
Yeah.
She's a well-known ghost that was encountered quite a few times by gentlemen at like USO dances and stuff. For the returning soldiers, I guess. And they would dance and shake a leg with her, and then she'd ask for a ride home, and they would take her home and drop her off at the what was the story?
Drop her off at Resurrection Cemetery.
Oh,
well,
right.
she said that's where she wanted to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course the next day somehow the soldier in question, who was cutting a rug with her the night before, found her home. How does that story go? That story is confusing.
I don't even remember exactly, so maybe we should save it for another time when we remember. But Nico in chat just said, "Ain't no party like a Castle of Spirits party, because a Castle of Spirits party don't stop."
I like it.
Shall I read a story while we're here?
Oh, do you have a story to tell?
I do, and it's about a haunted party.
Is there dancing? By the way, I'm dressed to dance.
So. Yeah, he's got his legs shaking jacket on.
It's my David Bowie T-shirt, and
oh yeah, let's dance.
Well, I mean, it's actually it's from the image is from The Man Who Fell to Earth, but it's from
anyway.
Lodger? No, from Low, the album cover for Low. Sorry.
Okay, this story is called Mount Auburn Townhouse Haunting, and it was submitted by Nancy in Oklahoma, USA, November of 2019. Like most people in their 20s, my friends and I juggled entry-level jobs with learning how to be grown-ups. One activity we practiced was entertaining. The birthday of one of us fell on a weeknight, and a male friend invited our group over for an early evening of cake and coffee. His name is Ed. Ed had earned a degree in architecture a couple of years prior to that evening, and not long before, he had moved into an old townhouse in Cincinnati's Mount Auburn neighborhood. The house was run down, but it had good bones. The two men who owned it offered it to let Ed live there rent-free in exchange for some much-needed renovations. This arrangement was in the early stages when we all showed up for the birthday celebration, and none of us had yet been inside. The gathering was pleasant. The cake was made from scratch and good. The coffee and conversation were enjoyable. After an hour or so, I asked Ed for directions to the bathroom and went upstairs to find it. The house had 2 stories, plus a full basement and an attic. It was split in half by a wide central hallway where the stairs formed a series of stacked Z's. You mounted a flight, turned and reversed direction on the landing to the foot of the next flight, then ascended that. The well of the staircase was bounded by banisters that were several feet apart. In total, the hallway was 10 to 12 feet wide. Hanging into the stairwell was a stout cord suspended from a single high-watt naked light bulb mounted on the attic ceiling, 2 stories up. The hallway was flanked by rooms on both sides. On the first floor, the hallway ended at the kitchen, which was large and took up the entire width of the house at the back. After I visited the bathroom, I took myself on a quick tour. I walked the hall on the second floor, peeked into any open doors, then I ascended to the attic. The light from the bulb didn't penetrate far into that top floor. It had deep dormer windows and impenetrable shadows in the corners and gable ends. Suddenly, I felt very uncomfortable, as if I was intruding in someone's private space. But I could see no one. My discomfort grew so intense that I couldn't force myself to venture more than a couple of yards away from the head of the stairs. As I turned to descend them, I had a powerful feeling that someone was close behind me and wanted to push me down the stairs. I took a firm grip on the banister and walked down slowly and cautiously. By the time I reached the second story, the feeling of menace had faded. And by the time I rejoined my friends in the front room, or parlor, I suppose it would have been called when the house was built, the feeling was almost unnoticeable. The party broke up soon after that. The following day, I called Ed to thank him for inviting me and to talk about the house. I mentioned the stairwell and the clever way they were lighting it. That bright light bulb could be turned on from any landing in the house by pulling the cord. I expressed admiration for the hardwood flooring and the banisters and told him that I was curious about what his housemates wanted him to change. Then I told him about my tour and about the feeling of some menacing force watching me when I went up to the attic. "Oh, you got off lightly," he responded. "We've invited some people here who felt that so strongly they couldn't bring themselves to enter the front door." "Wow, what do you think it is?" He told me that he thought it was the ghost of the former owner, a woman who had lived there for years and passed away alone at an advanced stage. He said that when he first moved in, he, too, had felt that sensation of strong dislike and repulsion. But after he had lived there for a couple of weeks and spent some time in the kitchen, preparing meals and baking bread, he had felt the rejection soften, as if she had decided that he was doing things that were proper to do in her house, and that she had decided to grudgingly accept his presence. All 3 of the men who lived in that house were homosexuals. One was a well-known musician known for his flamboyant ways. The house was known for its wild parties, and it was so big and rambling that you can imagine the sorts of shenanigans the guests would get up to. The evening of the birthday party was the only time I ever set foot in that house, and I didn't regret that much. I would have enjoyed seeing Ed's renovations, but I never asked. Thank you again to Nancy in Oklahoma, USA for submitting Mount Auburn Townhouse Haunting in November of 2019. And that last bit snuck up on me. I think I kind of skipped that. Oops.
Yeah, I was going to say, this story must have been written 25 years ago when certain words were a little bit more, I don't know, maybe more in the nomenclature of normal. And
a little more shocking. But anyway, I really like that story. And do you know what it kind of reminds me of? Just a bit, mostly because of like the layout of the house and, you know, the emphasis on the kitchen as part of the story. It reminded me of the book that I'm reading for, I think this is like the third time I've read it. Don't judge me. I really like this book. 12 Nights at Rotterhouse. Guys.
Yeah. That was a good one.
If you haven't read 12 Nights at Rotterhouse by, his last name is Ocker, Ocker.
It's some author.
Some author. It's so creepy. Like,
I remember kind of what it felt like to me was Stephen King's 1408. Was it 1408? 1408, but not an hour.
I don't remember
but
anything
13
about
nights. Basically, somebody going into a haunted place, and I'm going to stay here for the duration for a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen King's story was supposed to be overnight. He didn't make it an hour.
Well, this story was supposed to be 13 nights,
right,
but he only made it 12. It's just
and you
such
have to
a
read
good
the book to find out why he did not make it to the 13th night.
That's right. And
but it has something to do with horror.
I'm on the 12th night right now, maybe the 11th. Anyway, you should read the book if you haven't read it. I think it's J.W. Ocker. I think that's his name. Anyway,
well,
it's so good. Yeah.
And on that note.
But have you felt that before, right? Like standing at the top of the stairs, just like terrified that someone is going to shove you down the stairs?
I'm more familiar with the standing at the bottom of the stairs and feeling like there's going to be somebody chasing me up the stairs, which is why we live in a one-level house now.
Yeah, because this jerk, I'm pointing to Vince if you're listening on podcast land. When we lived in our other house, our movie room, our TV room was in the basement, and we had 3 flights of stairs to get up to our bedroom. And so, like, late at night, we'd finish watching a horror movie or something, and he would make me go up the stairs first. And the whole time, I'm like, don't chase me, don't chase me, don't chase me. And he would chase me up the stairs. And it seriously, like, it activated my fight or flight like nothing.
But you never fought. You always
Because
flew.
I was too scared. I just flew. And then I stopped making him let me go up first. And I said, no, you go up first. I'm not going because you'll chase me.
Well, that was the thing that we did, me and my sister, all throughout growing up. Whenever we had
each other up the stairs.
I would chase her
Awful.
unmerciful up the stairs. And basically what would happen is that she would just collapse into the fetal position like midway up the stairs. And I would just I guess I would tickle her or something like that.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
Because if you fall to the ground in the fetal position on the stairs while something is chasing you, even if it's just your brother or your dumb husband, they're going to get you. Don't look at me like that. If you fall down, they're going to get you. And you can't allow that to happen. You need to run up those stairs immediately. Once you get to the top, turn around and face them down. Just push them down the stairs. But you got to get to the top.
Swift kick in the
face,
nether regions or the face. Solar plexus always works. Why don't we tell everybody about the beautiful visuals that we have here in the background?
Well, you know, we wanted to
for those of you watching on YouTube, you get a special treat.
Party atmosphere. Usually we have our campfire going, but I wanted some disco lights today for
the disco ghosts.
For the party.
I hope you guys all brought your disco shoes.
That's
because
right.
we will be having a dance off at the end.
Well,
No, actually, that's not
Vince
going to
is
happen.
just going to be the only one participating in the dance off. So I'll let you know when that's starting so that you can tune out.
Dance parties usually take place in the kitchen, as everybody knows.
That's true.
But
That's where dance parties live, is in the kitchen. Hey,
speaking of dance parties,
yeah.
I do have a story here to share. This one was written in 2007, back when people lived in Mojave, Pennsylvania, which
Nobody
is where
lives
this
there
story.
anymore.
Apparently, that's a place. Sounds good to me. This story was submitted by anonymous. Well, actually, it doesn't say anonymous. It just was submitted anonymously. So it's not the famous anonymous author that everybody knows, but somebody forgot to put their name to the story. And in keeping with the theme tonight, this is called The Party. My story occurred about 25 years ago when my mom was 18 and her brother Dale was 22 years old. Their mother had left them when they were little, so she will not be in this story. Late one night, they were asleep on the couch when voices and music woke their father, Calvin. He wondered which one of his children was having a party at the house so late at night. He decided to get up and check and to ask them to keep the noise down a little so he could go back to sleep. He put on his white terry cloth robe and began walking down the dark hallway toward the living room. He began to wonder why the whole house was dark, if there was a party going on, but he still heard the voices and music, so he continued on his way toward the sounds. When he reached the living room, he flicked on the lights. The lights flashed on and all the sounds stopped. He thought Dale or Neela, my mother, must be playing a joke on him, so he went to see which one was not in bed. He turned off the lights and walked back toward the bedrooms. He first reached Dale's room and found him fast asleep, and so he continued on to Neela's room, where he found her sound asleep too. He scratched his head and thought to himself that he must have been dreaming. He listened intently, but he heard no voices, music, or any other sounds. He returned to his bed and looked at his clock to see how much time he had left until his alarm would wake him. It was currently 1 a.m., so he had 5 hours left until his alarm would start blaring. His head had just hit his goose-down pillow when he started hearing the sounds of the party again. He thought to himself, what the heck is going on? He got up again, but this time he was on a mission to find out who the prankster was that was keeping him awake. He walked stealthily down the hall and peered into the darkness with his bloodshot eyes, trying to distinguish the shapes in the room. He saw a few shadowy figures and thought he had caught the prankster, so he turned on the lights. Once again, the sounds stopped and nothing remained where the shadowy figures had been. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. Still nothing. He turned the lights off and checked on Dale and Neela again. They were still asleep in their beds. He didn't know what else to do, so he went back to bed. These events were repeated 2 more times, and then Calvin finally chose to ignore them and try to sleep. He only had a couple of hours of snooze time left. But when morning came, he asked Dale and Neela if they had heard anything during the night. Neela, being a very deep sleeper, said she hadn't heard a thing. Dale, on the other hand, said he had heard party sounds and thought that it was Neela and her friends. Their dad told him what he'd been through all night. They all felt a bit uneasy about it, figuring it had just had to be ghosts. That was the end of the party. There were no more unexplained parties in their house. But they did experience some other odd occurrences in their home that could not be logically explained. And that was The Party by Anonymous in Mojave, Pennsylvania, March of 2007. What does that story remind you of, Jane?
It reminds me of the best episode of Wellington Paranormal.
Yeah, did you guys ever see Wellington Paranormal
'Kay.
television series?
So if you've ever seen the movie, not the TV series, but the movie, What We Do in the Shadows, you know, there's the two cops that come to their house and they're completely inept, but also like super, super sure of themselves. Wellington Paranormal is a TV series out of New Zealand that follows them, and it is created by Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clements. And it is so good, and it's genuinely a creepy series. But there's an episode where there's a ghost house party happening, but it's opposite of your story. So in Vince's story that he read, when the guy turned on the lights, the party stopped. You couldn't hear anything anymore. But in this episode, they go to the house and there's like the 70s like disco party going on. It's totally like a 70s swinger party or something.
Yeah, the cops receive a noise complaint.
Yeah.
And they go to show up, to see what's going on and take it away.
But everybody at the party is completely ignoring them. So they're like walking around trying to get everybody's attention to make them quiet, but nobody will pay attention. So one of the cops reach over and unplugs the stereo. And when they do, all of the lights go out, the music stops, and they look around. And it's like this old, abandoned, rundown house that hasn't been lived in like 30 years. And there's no one there. And it's genuinely creepy, but it's also absolutely hilarious. So,
and just like most TV series, it's episode number 3.
Yeah.
That is like, apparently they save the best for third.
Episode number 3 is always the best, and the third song on an album is always the best song.
Sometimes I think it's the second.
Really? Because I think sometimes it's the fourth. I never think it's the second. A lot of times I think the second is a snooze fest, both on TV and...
They got your attention with the first. Mm-hmm. They figure they can put you to sleep for the second before you get up. The third's going to hit, and that's the way it works.
Yeah, but if you guys can get your hands on Wellington Paranormal, either online
I think it played here in the States on the CW, if I'm not mistaken, but we couldn't wait, so we bought it from overseas.
I think it was edited, though. I don't think it was.
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was a little edited, which is weird because it's not inappropriate, so it must have been edited for time or something. But oh my gosh, it's the best show. So now we're gonna have to watch that episode tonight.
And talking about Wellington, or whether What We Do in the Shadows, we're also big fans of the series.
Well, yeah.
There are, in many ways, I almost want to say that the series is more dear to my heart than the movie is.
Gasp.
But
I mean, the movie doesn't have Matt Berry in it, so it's got that going against it. But
yeah, Matt Berry, the vampire named Laszlo. He's hilarious. He's a really funny British actor.
You can actually see his face just right there on top of the bookshelf. He's a musician as well. We've got a CD right up there.
And he's like a serious musician. He's not like...
He's amazing.
He doesn't do like funny music or vampire music or something like that. And we looked into him and we were like, oh my God, his stuff is actually really good. So we're like super fans of Matt Berry. Super fans. We really like his acting, his music, his physical appearance. Jane likes his physical appearance, and
he's my hall pass.
And I truly envy that rich, full head of hair that he has.
Gorgeous head of hair. Anyway, we should probably move it along a little bit. Should I read another story?
I mean, do you
adjust
have
my
another
microphone
story?
Just a little bit? Sorry.
If you have another story to read, by all means.
I do.
Is it in keeping with our theme here with the disco ball? And this episode is called "The Dead Can't Dance."
Girl, you know it is. Why did you stifle your laugh? He always laughs when I say "girl."
Because I always want to say, girl, it's true.
Oh yeah,
and I don't want to get a copyright strike for.
All right. No, I don't think this one actually fits in our theme. It's called Our Halloween Party.
I think it might just fit.
It might. And it was submitted by
Anonymous.
The prolific Anonymous in UK, November of 2010.
Oh, good. It's not Oklahoma again? Okay. UK. We're good.
It was 2 days before Halloween and my fiance's birthday, So we decided to have a party. When we were all getting ready, we hear a knock at the door. We all think it's trick-or-treaters. My fiance's mom answered the door, but there wasn't anyone there. So we all laughed and thought it was someone playing a trick, as it was nearly Halloween. At 7:30, we had finished getting ready and were going downstairs to enjoy the party. About 10 minutes later, the guests started arriving. We were all drinking and dancing, and by about 8:45, all the guests were here. There was another knock at the door, so one of our friends grabbed the sweets to give the trick-or-treaters, but again, there was no one there. All of a sudden, we hear a big thud by the front door. Our friend was lying on the floor, and the sweets were all over the floor. We all rushed over to see if he was okay, and luckily he was. So we asked him what had happened, and he explained that a big gust of wind came through the door and pushed the bowl out of his hands and pushed him over. By this time, most of us were drunk anyway, so we didn't think anything of it. The next morning, we all woke up, and everything was fine. We said goodbye to everyone and tidied up the house. That night, my fiancé, his family, and I were planning on having a spooky night in to get into the Halloween mood. So we watched horror films and played games. Then it came to the Ouija board, and we had all done this before and haven't found anything, but this night was very different. We began by asking, "Is there anyone there?" No answer. We asked all sorts of questions like, "What is your name? Can you move something?" and so on, but nothing happened. I should mention now that I was pregnant at the time and was having really bad pains, and when we decided to pack up the game, the baby started kicking. I said something like, "Ow, why are you hurting me so much?" That was when the spirit started talking. The cup moved to J, then U, then S, then T, then R, then E, then L, then A, then X. This really freaked us out because that is what everyone had been saying to me all day. Just relax. After this happened, I would feel someone rubbing my stomach in the night, and I would feel the pain go away almost immediately after it came. And when she was finally born, the presence of that helpful spirit went away. To this day, I have not seen or heard anything else of this spirit, and I still have no idea why it had chosen me and how it had the power to soothe me. But I thank this spirit. I hope you enjoyed my personal story. Thank you again to Anonymous in UK for submitting our Halloween party, November of 2010. What did you think, Vince?
I think that ghost was a Frankie Goes to Hollywood fan.
Why?
Relax. Although then the
But
lyrics go, "Don't do it." So I was always confused by that. Relax. Don't do it.
Your age is
Don't
showing.
do what? Don't relax? Hey, I was a kid when that song came out, right? I was just born.
Shooting off in all directions.
Yeah, so what is that? Was just relax. So it's the ghost.
Well, everybody had
agreeing
been
with
telling
everybody.
her all night, just relax. And so, yeah. So apparently she was, a little uptight or in pain or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody in chat, no Ouija board while you're pregnant. Well, actually, Sandra said no Ouija board, bad juju. I gotta say, I'm sorry.
We respect all
I do
everybody's,
respect everybody's
opinions
opinion.
about the matter,
Absolutely.
but we happen to have our own.
I just don't think it's anything. I'm really not afraid of it. In fact, we were talking about doing a seance slash Ouija board episode for Halloween. So
I mean, we've had a seance
nobody in this
before.
house is pregnant. So, we can rest assured there.
We've had a seance before. We did do a Ouija board episode early on where we talked about Ouija boards and we talked about a Ouija board session. We didn't record it, did we?
I think we recorded a minute of it, and there was just a few seconds in the episode because it was mostly just us sitting there
Like
looking at
nothing's
each other
happening,
with
yeah.
nothing happening.
And I did have an actual Ouija board experience once where I could tell that it was not either one of us that was moving.
Tell the whole
planchette.
story.
Wow.
Or we could save it for the Ouija board.
I mean,
Excuse
it's
me,
also
I'm totally hiccuping on air. I apologize.
It's also something that a full story that I told, on that Ouija board episode.
Oh, yeah.
But it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that there's got to be some sort of science behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's some sort of possibly misunderstood, and I don't think it's the effect where people are moving it and not realizing
The
it.
ideomotor?
The ideomotor effect. I don't. That
I
was
think
not what
it's-
I felt. The person that I was sitting with, who was psychic or something, that damn thing flew off the board, and neither of us, we were trying to keep up with it, and it flew off the board.
She also did those kind of things for a living. So
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, squash anyone's belief, but I am intrigued with these things and I really want to believe them, but my brain still says, let's see if there's an explanation first. So there's that.
I think
Anyway,
that
we can-
it's whatever we assign to it, and if we assign evil to it, it will scare the hell out
Yeah.
of you and make you feel an evil presence.
But if you ask them, what boy likes me, or will I get an A on my science test? Those are the kind of questions that it tells you to ask on the board. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys have to remember the Ouija board was invented in Victorian era. Like, it's not an ancient thing. There's always been divination of some kind, but the Ouija board itself, that's fairly new. Right around 100 years, give or take a
And it's-
decade or so.
It's not like I'm saying that Parker Brothers would never put anything out that would harm you, because God knows the
Because there's
checkers
small parts in all kinds of toys.
checkers are a choking hazard too.
That's right.
But I bet you if you played a game of checkers and you started asking the
And the
spirits
checkers
questions,
are moving around.
if you asked the checkers questions and said, "Oh, spirits, come to me while I'm playing this checkerboard game," you'd probably start experiencing some freaky stuff.
They might.
too.
Yeah, you might.
So
Anyway, we'll go into that deeper next month when we do a
got
Ouija
a lot
board.
to say about that.
A Ouija board episode. It will be a special episode. It might be a little bit of a longer episode.
Or shorter.
Who knows? We'll let you guys in chat ask questions. Yeah. And we
Yeah.
both swear not to push the planchette because that's cheating and it just is dumb.
Yeah, I'd probably push it to say something stupid like "go goo."
Gogu. Yeah. Yeah. We all know about Gogu.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey Vince, I was just sitting here thinking.
Oh.
Perhaps
Time for dance party?
no.
No.
Perhaps you have another story you would like to read the
I
fine
do.
folks.
I actually have two more stories, and I can't decide which one I want to read. There's one here. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of long, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of funny. It's got
Let's
some
have
funny
it.
things. This one was written by Amy Louise and submitted. She's from Bermuda,
Ooh.
or was. I mean, this was October of 2006, so it's been a while. But this is called The Uninvited Party Guest. During my 15 years, I have had many encounters with supernatural beings. I have had shared experiences, one of which I'm about to share with you. On my best friend's birthday this year, 2006, we decided that to celebrate her 16th, we'd arrange a party. Because Halloween is nearly upon us, we decided to have a spooky-themed party. We hired an old hall next to a rundown church just out of town from where I live. Now, in the past, me and another friend have had bad experiences with someone or something while waiting for our friends. In this case, it was the presence of a tall man, so my friend says. I did not see it, however, but I could feel an eerie presence there. Buttons, my friend, who was with me at the time, said that the man had looked sad, but also kind of menacing. While seeing him, Buttons noticed that the figure had a mangled hand. Getting back to the party, though, the hall we had hired was used for a funeral a few days before for an old, rich, and powerful man. Where I live, he was well known for his private sanctuary for small endangered animals and held a collection of endangered frogs and other endangered reptiles. He was a weird man. He came out of his house only once a week, and in this time he visited the pens and enclosures that kept the reptiles in. He was very straightforward, well-spoken, and supposedly had great taste and expensive dress sense. He was a stocky, well-built man, the typical posh-looking man with gray hair and a mustache. His eyes were most peculiar, for he had one glass eye and a monocle to help see out of the other. About a week before he died, a photograph appeared in the local paper, and he was wearing a long, dark jacket, dark trousers, and a top hat. They were the clothes he was buried in, along with his top hat and his monocle. We spent all day in the hall setting up the spooky decorations. The party began at 7 o'clock that night. Everyone arrived, and the costumes were great. The party was good, too. We'd been drinking before the party, so we were all hyper and merry. I decided that we should play a game or do something fun, so I quickly ran home to get some things to really get the party going. Look out. I came back with random things: pogo sticks, hula hoops, blindfolds, and other things. The game was to be blindfolded on a pogo stick and to try and stay in the hula hoop that had been placed on the floor. We got Charlotte to go first, seeing as it was her birthday. Halfway through the fun and games, the laughter dimmed, and all went quiet. The only thing we could hear was Charlotte bouncing and calling out to us all, asking where we'd gone to. We had taken our gaze off of her, and were now focusing on something behind her. We could all see it. A man was advancing on our friend, but something was not right about him. He was kind of transparent and solemn looking. We couldn't differentiate the colors he was or the colors he was wearing. He was just there, white and gray and almost see-through. Charlotte had now stopped and was about to take off her blindfold. The lights had begun to flicker, and it seemed like someone was flicking the light switch on and off all over again. Buttons had begun to shout and tried to tell it to go away. It turned around, and Kara started to scream. It had no eye, and the space where the eye had been was an expanded, empty hole. It raised its arm as if it was about to hit Charlotte, and that's when she took off her blindfold. She saw him and turned almost as white as he was. We watched him, and he began to turn away toward us. He stopped and looked as if he was studying us. He raised his arm again and brought a hat to his head. It was a top hat. He placed a monocle over his eye, nodded, and faded right before us. That is just one of my stories. Since then, my boyfriend, myself, and Buttons have all had other supernatural encounters, but none of them were as weird and as scary as the night of the party. And that was Amy Louise from Bermuda, to October 2006, with the uninvited party guest. And that was Freya with the background.
Another uninvited party guest.
Another uninvited party guest with the unwanted Foley of tails whacking microphone cables
She's
and
always
things
invited.
like that.
Poor
So,
baby.
yeah.
But I liked that story. Ew, the eye being all gone. But I think it's hilarious that he like put on a monocle and everything. He's like a very dapper gentleman ghost.
Well, you know, if you're gonna die, maybe you're gonna be if you're
Die
if you're
in
gonna
style.
if you're gonna die,
It's
if you choose to die,
if
you know.
you're gonna be dead in style. That's
right,
it.
right. Exactly. I haven't figured out what that style is gonna be for me. I am thinking about
He's still working on it. You can tell.
maybe we can pop my collar a little bit.
Yeah, he got a haircut. If you can't tell from last week.
Oh no, yeah.
Not one person. Guys, I have to tell you. So if you're listening in podcast line, you should really go watch last week's episode on YouTube.
It will explain why the
Why it was
episode
called Hell to Pay.
It's called Hell to Pay, exactly.
So Vince is wearing this ridiculous wig in last episode. Guys,
No explanation. Just
no explanation. Not a single person said anything about it except my brother. And he texted me to say, why is Vince wearing that wig? Like, he didn't even want to say it, like, in public in case it was hurting Vince's feelings. So, it was
as
hilarious.
if I decided to start trying to pass as haired.
Yeah, he's
hairless.
he's hair challenged. But
we like to call it follically challenged.
follically challenged. That's it.
Yeah.
There was one thing she said in that story that I take umbrage with.
What was that?
About the guy was really weird. He only left his house once a week. Bruh, do you know how often I leave my house once a week?
I don't know. You leave quite often, actually, these days.
Well, these days because I've been going to the gym. But yeah, if it weren't for that, I might leave the house once a week.
Tell them what our last neighbors called us.
The vampires.
Well, you're supposed to work up to it.
Why?
You're supposed to say.
You told me to tell him.
Long ago, I could have said that. I could have said we were called the vampires, but I
Oh,
wanted you
Jeff
to tell the
mentioned
story.
it. Hi, Jeff.
Oh, you did mention it, didn't you? Well, I wasn't watching. I did. We were doing the chat thing, were we?
Yeah, we just
No.
we weren't big fans of our neighbors in our previous neighborhood, so we just didn't interact with
The
them.
neighborhood we live in now is a little bit more us.
Yeah.
The neighborhood that we moved into were like families with kids.
Yeah.
Right?
And we were the weird couple who didn't interact with anybody and didn't have kids. We were the vampires. And when we found that out, we were like, sweet.
I guess because we did not go and play in the front yard or something.
I was not offended.
With ourselves, with no children. It would have been creepy if I'd have gone out to play with the kids across the street. Hey, you want to throw the ball, Sonny?
Oh, I didn't see that. Jeff said that you looked like Booberry the ghost.
No, I remember that. Yeah,
I don't remember seeing that. And you know what, Jeff? You're right. He did look like Booberry.
Yeah. Well, that experiment didn't work out very well. Nobody's even mentioned it on like YouTube. Like people who've watched it later on.
No comments about it.
They're saying, "What's up with this guy's weird wig?"
Maybe that means nobody's watching. There's a couple people
Either that
watching.
or they're not actually looking. Either that or maybe I'm just a blank thing. They're like they look at this thing and they're like, "Oh, I see clothes in a head. That's all I see."
Yeah, pretty much.
In which case, thank you.
So I was wondering, Vince, if you wanted to play a little Would You Rather Paranormal Party Edition.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay,
I would.
these are coming up off the top of my head, so I got to think for just a second.
All right.
So we're going to go with paranormal parties. Would you rather...
Sure.
Shut up. Would you rather go to a party where all of the party goers are ghastly ghosts? I don't just mean like regular ghosts. I mean like gross ghosts. Like Beetlejuice style, where you can tell like how they died. Ghastly gross. Actually, like in Wellington Paranormal.
Yeah.
Like the crochet ghost. Okay. Would you rather go to a party where all the party goers are ghastly ghosts? Or would you rather go to a party where all of the party food is, in Halloween when they do like the dead man's brains and you have to like reach into the bowl and it's like a bowl of wet cold spaghetti.
Yeah.
And then the peeled grapes, this is the dead man's eyeballs. So that's what all of the food is, but instead it's not spaghetti and grapes.
Okay,
So
but are
real
the
real dead man stuff for food. I guess it's a cannibalistic party or ghastly
no?
ghosts.
I usually don't go to parties. And
But
if I
you're
do go
going to a
if I
party this time.
but if I do go to parties, I usually don't eat the food there because everything's got corn syrup these days, and
That's a fact.
I don't do corn syrup
I don't think
anymore.
dead man's eyes have corn syrup in them, though.
So
It's more like
I probably
ocular
wouldn't-
fluid.
I would have eaten before.
Okay.
Let's be real.
Okay.
I would go, but I think it would be more exciting to go to the Beetlejuice party where people are like showed up. Like if some guy died in a well, I don't know, the car accident thing might
Anything. Yeah.
be. If somebody, what was the guy, the crochet guy you said in the Wellington Paranormal episode, or the
guy,
fondue
the
ghost.
fondue ghost.
He drowned in a tub of fondue, so his head is covered in fondue.
Jeez.
That would, you know what, that would really,
That would be great.
I would really be able to strike up conversations without having to think.
Yeah.
I would be like, so
what do I talk about? Clearly, you're talking about the fondue.
I'd be like, so what exactly happened to you? And then that way they do all the talking and I see them and I get to feel like I'm a social person,
Right.
which I'm not.
I think we're going to the same party.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would go to that party too.
Yeah.
Okay, now your turn. And you have to make them up on the spot. Come
For
on.
what? Oh,
Paranormal party. Would you rather? Don't take
party?
too long because dead air does not work real well.
it's got to do with parties.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sandra says ghastly ghosts, and Gina says ghosts, and Nico says ghosts, and Lily just says party. So I guess Lily's up for anything.
I picked the party.
Okay. Go.
Okay. Would you rather go? Wait, this sounds just like yours. It's not supposed to sound like yours, right?
No, it's not. It's supposed to be all on your own.
Okay. Would you rather die at an awesome party you were having the time of your life? Let's pretend that you like parties, all right?
Okay.
And
I
you're
don't
having
mind
the
a
time of
good
your life.
party.
Oh, okay. Well, would you rather be having the time of your life at a party and die,
Mm-hmm.
and then go to your whatever your reward is, or you just wink out, and next thing you know, you're like a rock on Pluto or something?
Uh-huh. Ooh, that sounds cool.
It does. It really does. It sounds peaceful. Or would you rather die and wake up and find yourself in an afterlife party of all kinds of like, this is an easy answer.
Ghastly ghosts.
If I'm going to say an afterlife party where every day is Halloween, I know what you're going to pick.
Well, yeah, clearly that one. Mm-hmm.
But that's not as
Although
peaceful.
I don't know, being reincarnated as a rock on Pluto, that is tempting.
Yeah. How about a comet? Well, would you rather? If you were to die, let's just say, yeah, because you never know. If you were to die,
He's burping.
just in case the podcast audience didn't hear that because I turned away. She's giving you a blow by blow. Are you going to tell them where I'm scratching next?
You were giving a blow by blow.
Yeah.
Anyway, a comment.
No. Would you rather die and be a comet hurtling towards the Earth to take out all the other ones that still live? Or would you rather die from a comet hurtling toward the Earth? Because before, when you died and became a comet, you died like, I don't know, you were like axe murdered or something like that.
So what does that have to do with the party? It has to do with the party.
Oh, all this took place at a party.
No. I'm going with the original question. I would rather be a ghost at an eternal Halloween party. That sounds legit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about you? What about you guys in chat? Pluto, please, Sandra said. Afterlife
Pluto.
party all the way, Lily said. That's right.
Because, if you do the afterlife Halloween party, you're stuck with humans.
You're stuck with ghosts.
Human ghosts. Ghosts.
But you also have superpowers and Halloween.
But ghosts are the exact same thing as I mean, I don't know. I think.
Yeah, but you have
I think
extra
that
powers.
Yeah, but exactly. So if you're an, I mean, excuse my language, if you're an asshole in real life and you become a ghost, you become an asshole with real superpowers to screw somebody's day up
It's
really
true.
well.
I changed my mind.
Screw their afterlife up. I'm taking Pluto.
We're going with Pluto. Yeah, me and you and Nico will be Pluto.
Yeah.
Lily's just excited to get to meet Elliot Smith at the Halloween party, which I gotta say, that is actually that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sandra. I don't know why I keep saying Sandra. Sandra, me, you, Nico. We're going for Pluto.
All right. Can we be spaced out a little bit? Because I want to feel special being the one rock in my area, you know?
Wow.
Nothing against you guys or, you know.
Or
I
me
just,
specifically.
if I'm going there for the peace and quiet, you know, I don't want to have like a little circle of rocks that we're sitting there talking to each other about how cold it is.
Well, if you're interested in peace and quiet, I can give you that right now.
Tempting, darling.
Ew.
Very tempting.
He's asking for it. Anyway, so yeah.
I've got another story if you guys want to hear one more story.
You do?
Yeah.
Didn't you already read 2 stories?
Oh, God, this is long. Yeah, but it's a bonus story.
All right, what the heck?
Are you guys down for a
I have a
bonus
third
story?
one I could read too.
Oh, God. Well, go ahead and just
This is
read
going to be
that.
a long episode.
Because I really like the title of the story.
Okay, go.
This was written by, anonymous, in Olympia, Washington. It was submitted in February of 2025. And it's called Thank You? Way back when, a lifetime ago in my mind, when I was a young adult, I lived in a series of haunted houses. The first was a large Victorian-style house divided by the owner, who rented 3 bedrooms upstairs by the room with a shared kitchen and a bathroom, while downstairs was himself and 2 bedrooms used for an ever-changing series of house guests, usually artists or musicians. I was staying downstairs while finishing up my senior year of high school and learning the responsibilities of adulthood. I was frequently told of a mysterious little girl seen disappearing into a hallway closet by the upstairs tenants, who would inquire if I knew whose child it was. Once, someone was told that there were no children in residence, or that the only child in the house was the owner's 5-year-old boy who would periodically visit, but typically lived on the East Coast with his mother. Because rooms were rented month by month by people who seldom stayed there for more than a few months at a time, I know of at least 8 different people who all independently reported seeing the same unknown little girl playing alone upstairs and disappearing soon after being noticed. I never saw a thing, but the owner was concerned that the number of people who had seen it and described intense feelings or the odd and uneasy feelings of being watched. He had the home cleansed by several different shamans and religious types in an effort to create a safer and more welcoming space. After that, his tenants started staying longer, lasting years rather than weeks. In college, I was made aware of the usual local legends of haunted dorms and spooky houses just off campus. Despite my openness or downright interest in the topic, I was again left unbothered by these so-called haunted spaces, even when I spent the night or made conscious efforts to reach the other side while residing in former rooms of deceased students. After graduating, while I was still finding myself and discovering what I was going to do with my life, I moved into my first apartment all on my own. The building was a former hospital turned first into a retirement community, then more recently opened up to the public. I was the first and only tenant under 65 on my hallway and floor. Many of the other residents would share stories of seeing figures walk through walls or hearing strange sounds, but again I was left alone by the other side. Then I moved into a newer studio apartment after trying a series of shared living arrangements. This space was very small, but perfect for me as a young go-getter who spent more time working and out adventuring with friends than at home. I had space for a bed that doubled as seating. The stove only had 2 burners, and the oven could only hold a small-sized pizza. Even that would have to be angled to fit sometimes. The bathroom was so tiny that my friends remarked about how difficult it was to use the toilet without putting their feet into the tub. It was here, in this itty-bitty space, that I had my first and only encounter with the other side. I'd come home late at night, giggling after the bar downtown had closed. I'd had a 30 to 45-minute walk across downtown and up the hill into my neighborhood. So I was sober from having all the drinks with my friends and tired from a long day at work, followed by a long night of dancing. I'd kicked off my ridiculous platform heels and shimmied out of the evening's party dress and tights, made my way into the bathroom to brush my teeth, wash off my face, and ready myself for bed. This is clearly a not somebody who shares my style. When I first heard the odd tapping sound, I figured it must be the neighbors, perhaps not happy with my coming in so late, so I tried to be quieter as I took 3 steps across the apartment from the bathroom to my bed. I snuggled down to sleep, expecting to go straight to dreamland. Instead, I found myself unable to fall asleep, as I kept hearing what almost felt like breathing in my ear, and odd lights floating around the otherwise dark room. After rolling over, pulling the blankets up and down a few dramatic times and sighing, I'd had enough, and I sat up and announced, "Be quiet, I'm trying to sleep." And she continues, "If you're going to stick around, make yourself useful and get me a drink of water. I really need to get some sleep before I go to work tomorrow." The sounds and sparkles stopped, and I was able to get to sleep. When I woke up around 9 a.m., there was a glass of water on the floor next to my bed. I lived alone. The water had some pieces of ice floating in it. I did not have an ice cube tray in my tiny fridge. It wasn't the kind that made ice anyway. So I did the only polite thing. And I said, "Thank you," drank the water, got up, and went about my usual pattern of getting ready for the day. I was never bothered again, although I did ask for help finding lost items a couple of times, and sometimes those things would be set in the middle of my bed or on the counter when I came home. And that was Anonymous from Olympia, Washington, in February of 2025, with a story called Thank You. Now, would you say thank you? I would definitely say thank you for a glass of cold water.
Yeah,
water.
I'd say thank you, but would I drink it? Not a chance. Not a chance. But also, here's why. First, if a ghost conjured it out of thin air, you don't know. You don't know what that ghost did to it. You don't know what ethereal water has in it.
What is the source of that water exactly?
Right.
If it doesn't come...
And she didn't have ice, so clearly it didn't come out of her apartment.
It was ghost ice.
But let's talk about the other possibility. A Frogger. Huh. She had a Frogger who, she said, "Bring me a glass of water." And the Frogger was like, "This is going to freak her out. I'm game."
You guys know what a Frogger is,
so
right?
A Frogger is a person who, breaks into your living quarters and is hiding in there and essentially living there while you live there. So it's creepy, and I am terrified. I'm constantly terrified that we have a Frogger in our crawl space. Did you know that?
Yeah, but to get in and out of that crawl space makes such an ungodly racket that there's no way
that they do it while we're home.
Even the neighbors would be like, "Dude, I heard this this awful racket and some creepy person was sliding under
Nah,
your house.
no. One night we were in the backyard and our dogs attacked raccoons and we were like screaming and the raccoons were screaming and it was, a
Nope,
whole
nobody
thing
got hurt.
and nobody heard it either. The
Yeah.
neighbors did not hear it. And we were right up against the fence into their yard and they didn't hear it. So don't tell me that the neighbors would be like, I heard a really scary sound while you guys weren't home. They wouldn't.
You're probably right.
I am. So do you want me to read my bonus story?
Are you done? You're not going to talk about how awesome that story was and how well I read it?
You did read it very well, and it was very good. That is a super creepy thing. Like, it doesn't matter if it's paranormal or not. You wake up to a glass of water with ice floating in it that you requested, but you do not have ice. That's terrifying. But I also need to know, she didn't say, was it one of her glasses or was it a rando glass?
Well,
Because if it's a rando glass, I don't want anything to do with it.
this story was just submitted in February of this year, so it's very likely that Anonymous in Olympia, Washington, or maybe it's Olympia who lives in Washington.
We need that info. No, it's definitely Olympia, Washington.
Olympia,
we need that information.
Please let us know the questions that we have for you. The answers to the questions that we have. We really want a part 2.
All right. So this is my story, my bonus story. A House of Secrets, submitted by Anonymous.
The same one from Olympia?
It's got to be. Oh, no, this one's in Maine.
Oh.
Yeah, Maine, USA,
Anonymous moves around a lot.
November of 2009. In Livermore, Maine, USA, there's a beautiful house that is nice looking, but deep down is pretty old. This is my grandparents' house. This house has been known to be haunted for at least 2 decades. When my grandparents moved to this house in the early to mid-70s, back when my father and my 2 aunts were very young, my grandmother told me she met the previous owners that sold the house to them. She said the former owners were an older man and a woman. My grandmother was curious why the couple wanted to leave the house so badly. The husband replied with a peculiar answer. My wife can't handle living in the house. Strange things have happened that frightened her a lot, and she nearly begged me to sell the house. Later on, my grandmother knew what the man meant. Over vacations, my grandparents, father, and my aunts returned home to see the name Tony written on the kitchen table. One of my aunt's beds made. At the time, she was a slob and never cleaned her room or made her bed. And my oldest aunt's hair ribbons strewn on the floor. When all the doors were found locked and no windows were broken. Also, cameras take pictures by themselves. Electronics turn on and off. Shadowy figures are seen at the corner of your eye. Ghostly photographs and muffled voices, and of course, the White Lady. The White Lady is a white apparition that my older twin cousins saw when they were toddlers. I believe I have seen her too, a year ago in October of 2008. So here's my experience. In October 2008, I spent a night or 2 at my grandparents' house overnight. I was having family problems from the past, and I wasn't very close with my grandparents at the time. I was kind of scared of sleeping alone because of the many stories I heard. So my grandfather offered to sleep in the guest room, while me and my grandmother slept in a big bed in the master bedroom. When I fell asleep, I woke up what felt like only a few hours later, and for some reason I still don't understand, I decided to sit up in bed. I kept staring at the partially open door. It didn't close all the way, so it was open 4 or 5 inches. Not very long after, I saw something. A white apparition in woman form appeared at the top of the staircase. When looking out the bedroom doorway, you can see the top of the stairs. I could see the outline of her hair hanging down her back, her ankle-high dress, her small waist, and she had a graceful walk for every movement she made. She was staring straight ahead down the hallway where my grandfather was sleeping. She continued to do this for about 10 seconds. Then, somehow, she noticed I was watching her. I saw her rather slowly turn her head and look at me. As I mentioned before, everything about her was white. She was a white, glowing figure. She had no facial features. Where her face was, a flat but partially curved shape. She stared at me for what I thought was a bit long. Her head barely moved a muscle when she stared. For some reason, I wasn't afraid. I was actually pretty calm. I didn't really feel the temptation to scream or wake my grandmother, but now I regret it. I don't think my grandmother believes me. We stared at each other for about 5 to 8 seconds, and then she faded into a mist-like form that quickly blew into the room next to me, away from my sight. I went back to sleep after that. I have wondered many things since then. Who is the white apparition I saw? What exactly is she doing in this house? What is her name? Is she looking for something? Why did she stare at me for so long? What is she trying to was she trying to identify me? She was quick in some ways to vanish when she knew I saw her. Why didn't she want to be seen? I hope that I will see her again soon and find the answers. So thank you again to A House of Secrets, submitted by Anonymous in Maine, USA, November of 2009. And Anonymous in Maine, 2009, we would like to know if you ever saw her again and got answers to those questions. And also, that is not the third story I had set aside for today. It's a story I had set aside previously to read. I understand that didn't have anything to do with parties. Please don't be angry at me.
Well, we're allowed to deviate from the show.
Yeah, that's right.
Structure,
We're the
because it's our
Ghostkeepers.
damn show.
We're the Ghostkeepers. We make the rules.
And now, interpretive dance.
No.
Oh, wait, no.
No interpretive dance. In fact, we've been going on for over an hour now.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I swear to gosh.
The music is coming down the hall right on cue.
Yeah, it is. And that means that we have to tell you thanks for listening and watching the Castle of Spirits True Ghost Stories podcast. We hope that you got something out of this.
A good
more
spook,
so,
a good fright.
More so than Vince looks a lot better with his head shaved than with a wig on. And that maybe you like the popped collar more.
I don't like the popped collar. I hate the popped collar.
I'm excited because I haven't been able to wear this thing in like 10 years. Because it shrank and it recently unshrank.
And then it got bigger, I guess.
Yes, it got bigger again. So now I can wear it again. But yes, thanks everybody for being here and hanging out with us.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love. Nobody's getting paid
really
to do this. And
Well, and I just want to shamelessly. It's total. I should be ashamed of this, but I want to do a quick shameless plug. My Kickstarter, so that I can make prints of my art, which is totally on brand for our podcast. So it's okay that I talk about it.
Her art is kind of spooky.
It's a little spooky. I paint a lot of nighttime, abandoned houses, abandoned, sad-looking rag dolls, things like that. So I'm trying to make prints. I have to get them all photographed, which is pretty expensive. And I still have 14 days left on it, and I'm about to hit $6,000. So if you would like to contribute, there'll be a link in the show notes video description below. I would love it if you'd check it out. And if not, that's okay too.
I don't have anything to plug. except her art.
Thank you.
And thank you for your support.
Yeah. And, I think you guys, if you want to help this podcast grow, if you like it, you should really tell a friend.
Yeah. Word of mouth is incredibly impactful these days, more so than social media, anything like that.
Yeah.
And, if you hate the podcast, tell 2 enemies.
I think that maths. Thanks for watching and listening, everyone.